Welcome to No One Tells You This. I'm Laura Massetti. Most of us will face moments in our career when we have to make a big decision without all the information that we need, when everything is changing and we still have to lead. Today's guest has been doing exactly that, leading through one of the most complex business transformations in the European industry. Alessandro Caprara, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
same
good to
here.
have you. So, Alessandro is the CEO of SteelcoBelimed Infection Control. It's a joint venture between Steelco Group and Belimed that has fundamentally reshaped the medical and pharmaceutical industries across Europe. He's an engineer by training who's built his career from the ground up, from technical and operational roles to commercial leadership. He's one of those rare executives who understands both how things are built and how organizations actually function. He has navigated some of the most demanding transformational environments in the medical and pharmaceutical industries, including leading the complex integration of two organizations, two cultures, two countries in one. He's a proud Veneto native that I could relate with, who has built and led global teams across the world. Alessandro, let's get started. Okay, so let's jump into it. You have led the creation of a major joint venture across Italy and Switzerland. Tell me about what was the hardest part of that?
The hardest part is to define the target picture of what we want to achieve and why we want to make, as usually we say, 1 + 1 should be more than 2. So what are the synergies that we want to create, the things that we want to leverage, how we can create especially a better solution for our customers together than as a standalone company. So the definition of the target picture was one of the most challenging one, but also later the communication of this picture inside the organization and to the customers. The why we are doing that. This is extremely important to be really understood, communicated and understood internally and externally.
That's great. I remember in business school I had taken a mergers and acquisitions class, a partnerships class, and they had mentioned that a majority of partnerships fail. Why do you think that's the case?
It's difficult to answer because I think there are very lot of different scenarios. Uh, for sure, one of the most important point that I saw also in past experience is that you need to have a strong why you are doing. There are some of the acquisition merge that are mostly opportunistic, but the reason, the business plan behind what you want to create is not fully clear and probably not so exciting in terms of achievement. And that is one of the reasons. The second point is that the cultural integration of the company is very often underestimated. So it is difficult, and it has really to be managed in the good way how the company could integrate together, because there are different cultures that are not talking about different nationalities. It's about the heritage from one company to the other. People are usually very proud of what they did in the company. So it's a good point, but for sure this is also challenging in time of changes. So that's what you have really to plan and to do it in the right way. So a lot of things, it's not just a mechanical process. You just integrate two companies. There are a lot of soft facts that you have to consider and plan and really prioritize in this period.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And it's interesting living in Europe because we're in an area where there are so many strong cultures in a very concentrated place. And to your point, they have a lot of pride and a lot of heritage that you need to take in account. And it's not something that typically I think is maybe prioritized or understood initially until you actually go through the process of getting involved with one another.
Correct. And as I said, that's people are really, you need to have the people willing to do that. So you cannot force people to change or to accept changes easily, because otherwise the efficiency will go down and the motivation will go down. You lose the good people, and the people on board are not motivated to do the best, and so on. So it's very important to manage these things and so on, especially when you are merging companies that were competitors in the past. That is even more difficult than when you have different type of integration.
Yeah,
And you have also to ensure that you have the right transparency about what you are doing, in order to avoid political games on discussion and so on. So you need really to explain why you take a decision and the reason why, and why you are doing that and so on. And create also a vision about the future.
Yeah. It's complex, but I like how you focus on the why are you doing it, and starting with why. I think it's really fundamental to how you ground yourself in complex times. One thing that I really enjoyed talking with you about the first time that you met, and I believe a philosophy that many leaders have, but they don't necessarily express, but I think you do well, so I want to go here with it. How do you build a team that looks for solutions during these complex times and not excuses? Because it's so easy during complexity to point fingers or find reasons why something won't work. So how do you build a team that looks for solutions?
So this applies every time, always, but especially in this in changing period. People are not usually looking for solution. The first things they do is try to protect themselves. So that's and sometimes it can work together with finding a solution, or the time is just counterproductive. So what is really important is really to create an environment where people feel safe, where they are safe, they feel good to take risk, to take decision, and they know that they will not be punished for that, and they can look for solution and promote solution in the organization. So that's one of the points. The other point is also to focus on the customer. This is also one of the things that is very important, to say, okay, what is the best for our customer? So it's not that we are talking together in the complaining side organization. What is the best? What can we create to our customer outside? So to really make sure that the focus of the organization is outside the company as a priority. And this is some of the very important point to me that are really very, very important. Other point, this is a quote that I liked also to use. In changing time, if you want to be successful, you don't have to put your energy on fighting the old, but on building the new. So you have to stop the discussion and say, okay, it doesn't make sense if we discuss about what happened, why, and so on, why we did this in the past, but in the past it was like, so, okay, let's look what we want to do in the future. So the past is only important to give us the bricks to build the future, not to discuss about philosophy, why we did this and so on. This is useless. So focus on building our future. This is also the mentality that I need to push and we need to push in the organization.
I love that you say that, because I think there are a lot of individual contributors and leaders that like to do that. And it sets the tone for the organization in terms of what you focus on. So I love that that's a leadership quality that you put into place, because I think it's fundamental for the tone of the business.
Yeah, exactly. This applies, as I said, always. It's not only in changing period, is always the case. So, it's you cannot run like hell. You cannot run like hell and looking back if something has happened to protect yourself. This is not happening. So if you see, if you visit the Olympics, when you want to run fast, you have to focus up front.
I like that a lot. I know that as you start your career and as you build your career, you move into a place of where I know you've experienced of needing to make decisions. And with that growth in your career comes vagueness in terms of the outcome of those decisions, right? Because you're not as much in the middle of everything. So, do you have any advice of, when you don't have all the information that you need, and as a leader yourself, you're forced to make a lot of decisions every day. How do you manage that?
This is a natural tendency, also based on the that human behavior to avoid taking a risk. So making a decision, especially when it's not 100%. Okay, there are decisions where it's 99 clear what you have to do. This is easy. Everybody's happy and so on. But other cases where it's not. And as I like to say, sometimes I have to decide, or we have to decide if it is black or white, but you can look a lot of time, but it's just gray. So, and in this case, you have to force yourself because time is important. It's the speed of a company is very important. Decisions are important to maintain the efficiency, to grant the right service to the customer, and to be the first in the market. So it's important that you said, okay, to really to distinguish for a decision where you can take some time, and taking time you will have a better understanding, and decision that you are just taking time because you inside you don't want to take a decision, so you're not ready to that. And when you're not ready but you have to take a decision, you just take a decision. You have to force yourself to do it. And it's a sort of risk analysis also. It depends on the decision. For sure there are decisions that are more with a very big impact, and in this case sometimes you need and you want to make more time to have speak with other people, maybe to have additional data and so on, and decision that you have to really take to make the business run in the fast way.
That's important, right? Is evaluating the risk on the judgment that you're making. I think a big part of people that are rising in their career is they need to focus on making those judgments themselves and making good decisions. So when you look at your team and the people around you, what's the things that you evaluate if someone has good judgment and if you can trust their decision making?
So I think there are some important factors. One is the focus. Again, focus on solution, finding solution and so on. The other extremely important factor that I value very much with my leaders, with all the people in the organization, is the capacity also to coordinate the discussion and the input from different parts. A lot of time, you have a lot of information in the company, and that are not easy to take and to discover, or you have to take time. But it's very important that if somebody has to take a decision, he has to speak with all the stakeholders to understand the different point of view, speak with somebody with a different point of view, be very open to receive feedback and so on. This is very important. So the openness to be challenged about a decision is one of the most important factors. So, and to me is a need for my leader really that they have to take decision, they have to take risk, but I'm also asking to them that they are talking with the people with different view, and coordinate with them, and often to decide together. So to really find a way that maybe is not the best for everybody, but it's the best for the customer, or at least everybody understand why we are taking this decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I hear that the collaboration, the visibility, the asking questions and research is really important. One point you made too is getting that feedback from others. So what do you think is the importance in feedback? Because sometimes feedback is hard to hear. And we all don't love negative feedback, but I think it's important. So can you share to me the importance in feedback and in what we do here at work?
Feedback are extremely important. So it's because especially negative feedback, we don't want to give feedback to negative feedback. We don't want to receive them, but we also don't want to give them a lot of time, because it's not easy. It's not so the best thing you want to do, but they are extremely important. And honestly, my experience is quite on the opposite. People and especially the best leaders are seeking for feedback, even negative feedback. So protective, they are really not close to that. They really want to hear, and I have received several times in the past, if okay, I want more feedback, if something is negative, please tell me, and so on. They want to know how they can improve. This is the willingness to improve is one of the things that is necessary for the company nowadays. So the company has to be better every day, but this can only be done also with people with this mentality. They want to improve themselves every day. So I think this is the basis, and as a leader, we should not underestimate the fact that people are really looking for that.
Yeah, that's a great point. I want to pivot the conversation slightly for a moment because a lot of people listening are thinking to themselves, how do I follow the same path that Alessandro took in his life? So, I mean, the ability to be part of an M&A experience, the ability to have a global career and work in such an interesting industry, it's compelling. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your professional story and how you got to where you are today.
Good question. So I think it's quite a long story now. I was lucky overall, so I'm a lucky guy. So that's helping. But if I look at the other factor that brought me here, one is that I took some risk in my career to change also to change companies and also to change business and also roles. I wanted also to understand the company, to try to work technical, operation, sales, IT, everything. So this was my target in the beginning, to try to change as much as possible, giving stability, because you cannot change every month for sure, but also to arrive to create the right basis and to understand really how a company should behave. Second point is also that my career, I had also the luck, but I was also promoting to cooperate with other offices. When I was in the office, I always wanted to understand what the other were doing. So I remember in one of the company that I was when I was younger, everybody was a little bit surprised because at lunch I was in the technical office. At lunch I was sitting with the salespeople. Say, okay, I want to learn from them. So it's what is happening there. I mean, this is just a small joke, but it was true. But it's really important to understand what is happening in the other part, to be able to create the best for the company and not the best for your office. And last point, that is probably the first one in terms of priority. You have to be passionate of what you do. So it requires a lot of energy. Private life is a dream sometimes, and you can only succeed if you like what you are doing and you're passionate of what you're doing. This is my feeling. So you need to find. That's why you need to find. If you want to succeed in something, you need to find the job that is really the right one for you. And it's also something that people have to ask ourselves. So if somebody is looking at what I did, first question to ask is that, is it really what I want to do in the future? Because sometimes you need to evaluate and not take for granted that everything is. You need to find your way, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a really big part of what you said is working hard and going after the opportunities. You made the choice to, during lunch, be in the technical office and working on things, but that's a choice that you made. What do you think I mean, let me say this. I work with a lot of people that want to know, how do I chase those opportunities? Because they feel like they need to ask for permission to do them. And my philosophy is more that you have to just go after it and just put yourself in situations that are uncomfortable for you or new for you and try. So what's your philosophy around that?
You need really to put yourself to jump in the water to learn to swim a lot of time. So this is also applies, and you can have a good leader, a good manager that are promoting that, but a lot of time you have to be the one really asking for that. So I remember my first job, for example, I learned a lot. I was in a technical office, and I learned a lot visiting customers, because nobody wanted to go to the customer, because usually when you're in a technical office and you go to the customer, is not because the machine is perfectly working, so there is something to fix. And then there was the language barrier, and at that time, no one in the technical office, including me, was really good in English, and nobody wanted to go. And I said, well, why not? I go. So what can happen? And this, it was not easy. I mean, you feel really unsafe. You have a lot of things, a lot of pressure, and on the other hand, this is how you grow. So
yeah.
Honestly, you cannot stay for sure sitting in your comfort zone and pretend to grow. If you are lucky, this can maybe happen, but most of the time you have really to put yourself out of the comfort zone, take some risk, calculated risk, but at the end of the day, they are not big risk, and but you also have to be in the right environment and right companies and so on. There are companies where you can simply not grow, so that's and then you have to just go out. And if I can also give another advice that is probably was not it was important, but not so important for me, is flexibility. Now with AI, with all the things that are changing and so on, you can have a plan. You can decide what you want to do in the future, but you need really to be flexible and to adapt to the new environment and circumstances, because world is changing more and more frequently, and we will have new technology that can disrupt a lot of jobs in the future.
Yeah. That's a topic of everyone's business conversations now around AI and how to use it. But I think a big part of how those that are nervous about it will sustain through this is how they show up every day, how they represent themselves as professionals, and how to be a good leader during this transition period, like what you were mentioning at the beginning. What is good leadership to you? And, I'd like to understand that from in general, but then also what are the everyday moments that make a good leader at work?
I think that so the definition of leadership is always one of the, probably there are thousands of books about that. So it's but one of the point is that to me is very simple, is if you want to be a leader, you have to lead. So, and the lead means that you are moving something, you are changing the situation. So managing, you can be a manager, you have to manage. You can stay as you are, you manage, you optimize, and so on. If you want to be a leader, you have to change things, to create new things and to create results. So this is what people are expecting for a leader, that are not just there and managing the status quo, but creating opportunity to grow for the organization and to be more successful. And to do that in the company, you have to, there are different points that you have to show. For sure is one of is the vision. You are the one that should promote more. First of all, you need to have a vision. So, okay, leading is good, moving is good, but you should know where to go. Sometimes it's, because if you just moving around is not even an option. So you need to set the target picture to the organization, the strategy. This is the most important role of the leader. And the second point is also to manage the inside and outside of the organization, to give you the right information inside the organization about what is happening outside. And you need to show, you need to be trustable. I think what is very important is that you are a trustable person, so meaning that people can trust you, and this means that you do what you say. And you have to balance also when you can be flexible and when you have to be strict. And there are something, for example, in the organization that as a leader you cannot accept. So that you have to also to be strict in some cases that something is simply not acceptable.
Yeah. I like what you mentioned of you do what you say that you're going to do, which I have struggled with as I've grown in my career because I have been that person that says yes to everything. And as you grow and become a leader and have more responsibility, I kept saying yes to things, but it was almost impossible for me to do all of it. So I was struggling with delegating but I was still saying yes. So I agree with you that, part of my growth has been how do I really say what I can do and then delegate what I can't.
But delegation for sure is one of the topic. I was also very bad in delegating, honestly. And why I learned, how I learned. So basically, because I arrived to a point where I could not delegate. So this was not an option. So I was definitely forced to do it. And it's very important then to have the right people and to understand what you can delegate and how you can delegate. So one of the mistakes that you don't want to do is, for example, to delegate only the boring things and the things that you don't want to do. You have to be, very precise, to really take time to analyze what makes sense to delegate. And sometimes there are something that you like to do, for example, but they are a better fit for somebody else. And also it's a part of cost awareness. So for sure there are different salaries in the company, and also you need to understand if what you are doing, also what your leader are doing, can be done by somebody with a lower salary and with the cost optimization, because otherwise efficiency of the company is going down. But the most important point to me is really that you delegate things that are the right one to the right people and not the one that are more annoying or difficult or so on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, Alessandro, how we end every single podcast is the same. So, I like for you to answer this question. The thing that nobody told you, but it changed everything once you figured it out was blank.
To me, if I have to say only one, is that being a leader is managing conflicting issues. So when you read a lot of books, you have a lot of things, or expert, they say, okay, you have to define a strategy, then with the strategy you go this way, then it's clear, you activate and so on. But basically, every day you have to decide, or you have to find a way between 2 or 3 or 4 important issues that are simply conflicting one each other. I'm talking about internal need with external need, talking about cost pressure or over quality, or what is probably the most challenging one as a leader is the balance between short-term and the long-term result. And this is really how you, this is one important point that you need to be ready. And you have to manage the conflict. So you have to find a way to manage the conflict. And sometimes it's you have to find a middle way. Sometimes you have to prioritize one over the other, but you will have a lot of challenging requests here and there that you cannot ignore.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Thank you. So, Alessandro, thank you so much for joining. It was such a pleasure to get your insights and connect with you. Your background is fantastic, and I know that those listening will have, really meaningful takeaways from this. So, really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Laura, to you.